Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Oh my, what a way to end it.
Schaefer with resilience and Vrzal wrestles away a hard-fought semifinal, denies Sabalenka the #1 ranking.
From the moment Northwestern fired Coach Pat Fitzgerald on Monday, it was likely the team would go with an interim head coach for the 2023 season, and it has, with David Braun, the defensive coordinator, elevated into that interim role. Braun is an outsider, one of 5 new assistants Pat Fitzgerald hired earlier this year, and Northwestern clearly wanting to go with someone who can't be connected to the time period when the hazing incident and allegations took place.
Good morning, everybody. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. There's your shot of caffeine this morning, maybe your espresso. Mike Sautter will be here at 9 o'clock, so espresso will be here today.
I don't understand. I just hope Mike Sautter is. Have we checked on Sautter? Is he alive?
Well, he mowed his lawn twice yesterday.
Yeah, Mike Sauter's in Vegas. And
I'm
100% sure Mike Sautter cracked the cocktail before the flight. And he's a child, so he will overdo Vegas. He will act like he's never been there before. And
he'll find himself at the roulette table.
No, he's very stingy. So I don't know if he'll just give away money. He will drink a ton, and drinks are cheap in Viva Las Vegas. But you're right. He probably does have to spend some time around an establishment to benefit from the free drinks. But I would guess, and it's 2 hours behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in trouble for 9 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock his time.
So he's there right now.
Right now. ASAP.
He flew out this morning.
No, last night.
Oh, last night.
Yeah, they flew out. I don't know. Caleb texted he landed at like 6 my time. So, yeah, they're there.
Maybe we'll catch him on the back end.
He doesn't stop grinding.
We've had some doozies. No one will ever beat Jay Foreman. And Foreman was in Vegas. Foreman did our interview in the hot tub. I could hear water splashing.
You just heard the bubbles turn on.
Vrzal's had a couple of dandies where he was clearly inebriated.
Was that when he went to opening day?
Yes, clearly inebriated.
I think he was on that fence line this year.
Yeah, today that was actually kind of tame. Shane had the shaky dump button finger. I've had some doozies. We had George Clinton and his Viagra plug.
Oh my gosh.
They were supposed to do a concert here about this time a couple years ago.
The P-Funk.
Yeah. And George didn't get paid, so he pulled the plug on that. Said, I need some Viagra. I said, oh, Lord. Get out, eject!
I am angry.
Have you ever just had those screwball interviews where you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I make sure I stay longer with this person because you never know what you're going to get out of it.
I'm like, this is awkward.
Because you don't have to say much. All you have to do is kind of just set it up, go with a little baseline.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a fluff question,
tee
something easy.
Tee it up.
Yeah, and then just let them ride.
Yeah. It feels like we have a lot going on today. Is this kind of a Shane?
Can I tell you a screwball interview I had with Unsportsmanlike Conduct?
Yeah, sure. What do you got?
We were doing these bands because Bob Bruce liked bands, and they were 80s hair bands. And we were supposed to have somebody on from one of the bands. I can't remember. But we had the guy, and I think he handed, like, midway through some point during the interview, he handed the cell phone over to somebody else because he didn't want to do the interview anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and the other guy pretended to be him, I guess, so.
That was cool. That was cute.
Yeah.
I think you just said bands 5 times in 25 seconds.
That's okay.
That's crazy.
That's Shane.
He wasn't even trying.
I just feel, does it seem like we've got a lot going on?
We have a ton today, and it comes via the phone line and via in studio, as we are talking to Adam McClintock at 7:30 and 7:45. He's the co-founder of Matrix Analytical. We'll talk college football coaches in the upcoming season.
Lot of good hires.
Then Mike Schaefer, Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports at 8 o'clock. We have a brief pause at 8:30, which, I haven't decided if we'll actually take a step back and be like, okay, we can talk now, or normally we do trivia on Fridays. Do we just push it off to the side? We have it available, so it's kind of like an in-the-moment decision for us.
It's only 13 minutes apiece.
And then Malcolm Buttler.
I want peace.
Co-publisher of the Lincoln Parish Journal and voice of Louisiana Tech at 8:45. We'll be continuing the schedule breakdown with Nebraska. Then we get into the 9 o'clock hour where we talk to Mike Sautter in Vegas, as we teased. Diane Mendenhall, president of Nebraska Pro Volleyball. She'll be in-house in studio at 9:30. And then Matt Vrzal at 9:45. Talk about a day for you to just get ready for vacation. We're talking to 6 of your friends.
Ordinary day, trying to get by.
Jam-packed day, though.
It's entirely too much light in here, too.
This first hour is going to be fun, though, especially when we get deep into
I got questions.
The analytics.
I'm like, shoot. I start doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, 13-minute segment. Let's say he goes in-depth about 3 coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just the ones that I want to talk about. I don't know what you're doing. I don't even recognize what we're doing. So we may have to have a little spillover into the 7:45 slot too, and say, hey, at least this time we didn't put him on the spot. We asked ahead of time. Would you like to stick around?
We asked mid-show yesterday.
Yeah, well, he was chiming in, and I saw him in the comments section. I was like, wait a minute. There's only one CFB_professor. Do we have the prof? Is the prof listening real time?
And this will be profitable.
Well, let's hope so. That's the end game.
You're always a desired outcome guy.
I am. I'm big E + R = 0.
What do you think Northwestern's desired outcome was by sending Jim Foster to the curb?
Yeah, well,
they knew what they were doing there.
So I'm surprised that that's only the second head to roll. They need a couple more.
I was shocked that 2 coaches went before somebody else.
Yeah, their contracts are probably a little bit more complicated. Maybe they'll come out unscathed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, football took a step forward while baseball took a step back, and bringing Brown in as the guy now, as interim head coach.
Yeah, he gets the tag.
Former DC from North Dakota State. That's something I'll ask Adam about a little bit.
Yeah.
The Northwestern situation with Brown now, and because you were even asking this question yesterday, you teased it, and we never got to it. But would Northwestern be present at media days? Yeah. Now I think they will.
So I guess, right? You know what you're going to have to deal with. And Nebraska's been in that situation with some precarious statements made or things that are happening currently before they get to media days. So Nebraska fans know what that's like, being on pins and needles about media day, and we've had some doozies, right? Opening statement, no opening statement. What gear did you bring? What gear are you wearing? Was Mike Riley too all shucksy? Why did Bo fly in last minute? We've had some dumb conversations about media days. But I did I see the stat yesterday that 70% of the schools have quarterbacks coming to media days?
You saw that right.
I'm not a big, and I know we're a little different there. I'm not a big, you have to bring the quarterback guy, but you know what? The Big Ten, it's like when you look at the list, I'm like, okay, we want stars. It's not superstar studded. There's some good players. But then I remembered after doing Big Ten media days for however many years we've done it, they don't always bring their thoroughbreds, but you'd like
them
for
to
schools.
bring.
Yeah. So, schools handle it differently.
Yeah, 70% seemed low to me. I know that to you it's probably like, wow, that's high. Because based on
it's probably a little
you've
high.
Seen before,
it's probably a little high.
Right?
I'd say 2 out of 3.
Yeah,
that's Shane. So
I would always want my quarterback there. I would want my team leader there.
Yeah.
No matter what. But that's selfishly coming from a media
Why?
member.
Do you just think the quarterback is the natural soundbite?
It's the soundbite that would get you the most traction with your people back home.
What if he's just okay?
Still, he's the recognizable face and name, so you can get away with it.
I was listening, all of it, except reading. No,
you could have read and listened.
No, except watching. I wasn't really, because there was no real audio, but I was reading. So let's just say that suffices.
The voice in your head was going
for the visual.
You were listening to that guy.
Mike Farrell, I know for some is hit and miss. He's like full neck deep dive into like recruiting now.
Mm-hmm.
And his 5 most overrated quarterbacks of this upcoming college football season, and one of them resides in the Big Ten. I think you like him. I think I want to like him, but I question the stock that he was getting preseason in his eval. Doesn't mean I don't think he can't be good. He just was valued very high in terms of status.
Okay.
Who would that quarterback be?
I hope it's not Hudson Card.
It is not Hudson Card.
I'm going to guess Cade McNamara.
Close. The other guy with ties to Michigan. JJ McCarthy.
Oh,
yeah. I was a little surprised.
See, I would not have even when you said ties to Michigan, I'm thinking of another transfer. Never would have thought that name.
Yeah, I was shocked. Now his list was a doozy. He got on Milton from Tennessee, Spencer Rattler, McNamara or McCarthy, I should say. I can't remember the other two, but it was a pretty interesting read because I'm thinking, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma.
I can see that one.
So, I went back and I did this game live, so I should know like it was not good. And I actually did it for radio on the Boomer broadcast. Oklahoma throttled Nebraska, and Gabriel still missed a lot of open throws.
Tons.
I was like, ooh,
that game wasn't close.
I was like, ooh, he wasn't open.
And it was Mickey Joseph's first game.
So. Yeah, and like defensively, they got shredded because still trying to feel their way along, and they're in their feels, right? Like that's an emotional week. But I remember saying during the radio broadcast, I was like, man, imagine if Gabriel was just a little more accurate, because some guys, Brent Musburger, wide open, and nope. So he made the list, and I can't remember the 5th. I should probably pull it up, but I'm not that interested. I was surprised that JJ made the list.
That surprises me too, because not only have I heard, Reese Davis say it, Herb Street, a lot of these guys talk about the steps forward that JJ McCarthy has made.
Mm-hmm.
So to have somebody, and you kind of have to. Not only does it get clicks a lot of the times, but if you put a big name like that in, more than likely you're going to have people that either like you or dislike you. You're never going to have 100% like you, 100% dislike you. And that's just how the world works. So it shocks me, though, and I think it would shock most people to see JJ's name.
So he has another one, too, at number 5. So Milton was 1.
Okay.
Milton was 1. I think Rattler was 2. JJ was 3. Dylan was 4. New place for this familiar face, and people thought it may get this particular independent over the hump this year to help usher in the second year of their head coach. He left the palatial 5,800 student population base.
The only name in my head right now is Grayson McCall, that's not it.
Sam Hartman.
Thank you.
At Notre Dame.
Thank you. I was getting there.
That surprised me too. But when you read the write-up, it was he kind of couched it. So I don't think he'll be bad. I just don't think he'll meet the expectations, which is kind of the definition of overrated, right? He's not saying this guy's gonna crash.
Devin Leary.
I'm okay on Leary. What's the expectation level? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just have seen his names on breakout stars list this year, and I don't know if I would place him there.
I do like the fact, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not touting Farrell. I mean, I like Farrell, and we get along, but he does like a guy. He does like a guy that I've talked about kind of in passing, but usually it's when we're trying to make fun of the pronunciation in their name. But he likes Pratt at Tulane. And I told you, Tulane has a couple of interesting non-con games where their opponents may think like, hey, we got one thing coming. But remember, that's a well-coached football team. And Pratt's a stud.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's kind of flying under the radar. And they got a big one in the non-con against K-State. I think K-State's back on the schedule this year, right? Am I misremembering, or am I getting that right?
On whose schedule?
With Tulane. It's Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss. They had Tulane K-State last year. They have Ole Miss this year, because remember when Brian Edwards went through the schedule, I think he called that one a toss-up game, and I was like, I'm glad he said that, because that will not be an easy game. So I'm in on.
I don't like it.
Well, and going back to what I was saying with how some people are for someone, some people are against. I'm reading an article. I just pulled up one article, and Andy Staples has Sam Hartman on here as a transfer that could make an impact. So
Andy Staples is probably in. I remember when Hartman decided on Notre Dame, I was like, oh, poop. That might get someone with consistency at the quarterback spot. That may get Notre Dame over the hump, because defensively, especially in the secondary, they got a chance to turn your lights out. And I'm probably in the Andy Staples category, but it was interesting.
It's just cool to see opinions fly.
Yeah. I figured JJ would surprise you, though, with Michigan, just because, reports are, he's a lot bigger, a lot stronger. Because that was always the thing for me. Like, just seeing him in person in Ann Arbor last year, he was slight. And I was like, oh, he's still growing. Like, he's going to turn into a bigger, stronger quarterback. But like I said, and I said this a couple weeks ago, if he's good, they got a chance to be great.
I think they could go undefeated if he's good.
Oh, that's a lot. Undefeated?
Yeah.
Are they? So you have them. Are you penciling them in your playoffs? Because we haven't gotten there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll give a little teaser there. I am.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So are they the only team in your playoffs without a returning full-time starter at quarterback? I'm going to venture to say yes.
Probably. Yeah. That's weird to think about, but yeah.
I feel like this year we're taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Because whether it's McCord or Beck or whomever, right? Even Klubnik wasn't a full-time starter. If you like Clemson. Right. Now you may like Daniels at LSU or Travis or Fasu or one of those. What?
I like the way you're saying it.
It's all about shorthand.
Hey, so other transfer quarterbacks that will make the biggest impact, 3 are in the Big Ten.
Yeah, the Big Ten got a lot. And I'm gonna tell you right where they are. They're in Purdue, they're in Iowa, and they're in Wisconsin.
And
Nebraska.
Purdue. Nebraska.
Why wouldn't Purdue be in the deal? Some people think he's the best that landed in the conference.
We're going Hartman, Devin Leary, Jeff Sims, Cade McNamara, and Tanner Mordecai on this 5 list. So
Mordecai is interesting because he looked
people
like
are sleeping on Hudson Card.
It seems like it. It seems like it, but I don't know. I'd be curious to see. I need to ask my guy T-Mac what he thinks about Card because he's the diehard Texas fan. But it was Mordecai looked like one of a few at Wisconsin when I saw them up close. Runs it a little bit better than I thought. Like their RPO dual threat quarterback game was kind of nice. He was good on the move. Wasn't as accurate as I thought, but I thought Wisconsin had 3 guys that look like.
How old is Mordecai?
I don't know. He's got to be 5th year. He's a 5th year guy, right?
Maybe 6.
Yeah, it seems like he's been there for a minute. But the Big Ten got a ton, and they didn't just get all those guys we mentioned will start. So the
every single one of them,
those guys will start. So it's like, I don't know if McCarthy's good. I'm still not sure who he's going to throw to, but
McNamara, you mean?
Yeah, did I say McCarthy? I was stuck on JJ.
Yeah, well, they're both mixed.
On McNamara, if he's good,
Iowa's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, but that's kind of how I feel about Mordecai too. Because I'm telling you, sure as I'm sitting here, and I've been all in on him since I saw him in person. Wisconsin's going to be. But now I'm starting to see a lot more people like Wisconsin. Last couple of days, a couple of people that we've talked to just mentioned Wisconsin at the top. And I was like, well, it's about time because I actually think they're going to be pretty good.
Are they 1A defensively for you?
No. So I think defensively I'm going Iowa.
Okay.
Then probably Illinois. If I'm just talking in the West.
Sure.
Because
just West for me.
Yeah, because I think Illinois got a chance to be outstanding.
Well, because I'm thinking about Nebraska here too, and if Jeff Sims turns out to be,
I like Wisconsin in the secondary. They have one of the best safeties in the country. But I don't know about. I wasn't like, ooh. Now I did like the way that they practiced, but I wasn't like overwhelmed with like flash talent. They were a little undersized, but man. They sprinted their ass off, getting to the ball and trying to create. That was one of the more intense practices I'd seen. It reminded me, and I said this coming back real time. It reminded me of a Saturday practice I saw in Lincoln, where that was the one where Coach Rule called the staff over and lit them up after being off only 2 plays in the circuit, and then basically hopped in the tackling drill.
That didn't happen again.
So do you know what I liked about Fickle? It's not that Rule's the standard, but he was a coach that was everywhere.
Right.
He had his hand. He would stand in the middle of the O-line. He would get into special teams. He'd walk over to the deep. He was super omnipresent, and it was just a new coach that wanted his fingerprint on all aspects of that practice, and it was exactly what I liked about Coach Rule.
So in the Big Ten West, would Nebraska go 1B? Would they
for defense?
Because the way I look at it is, if we're going to talk about Illinois and Iowa, and if the quarterbacks are good, they're going to be really good teams. Because Altmaier could end up being a really good quarterback.
I'm just iffy.
But again, he doesn't have the standard that the other 3 that we listed have.
The only advantage Illinois has, without me having to I know what their offensive line is coming back, and I'm a big fan. I said this real time of last year of Bielema's gap scheme. I like their running concepts. They're hard to handle.
So if
and even though Brown wasn't going for 9 a carry, right? I mean, he was 30 carries for 140 yards, and you're like, yeah, he just got bludgeoned. That wasn't 140. It'd be closer to probably 125. But you go for 5 yards a carry, and you're like, what happened? They'll still be able to do that, I think.
So if Nebraska is +1 in the turnover margin and Jeff Sims is good,
then Nebraska probably wins 6 or 7 games. 7 for sure.
Adam McClintock up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency TV. Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Had a little beat drop there, just so we could emphasize you.
I see you.
I'm just musically inclined individual.
I am not, but it doesn't stop me from being involved. So, Shane. No, I forgot what I was going to ask you.
About bands or music or?
Nah, he's just telling that random story.
It was random. What, the chicken coop?
No,
chicken
cream
stuff
cheese
was
to butter the bagel, or
sip telling his chicken story. I used to get him all off the topics. We talk about his dogs and his chickens and living out in the sticks, and we'd almost never get to football.
He has a coop in his backyard?
Yeah, Sip has chickens. He and Asian Wyatt, the only two people I know that raise chickens.
There's a house in our neighborhood. I saw it on Zillow. So the only reason I'm bringing this up, and then we'll get to Adam here in like 30 seconds. But down the road, main stretch of road, when you're coming in past the park, you go over the speed bump. It's a black and white house, like fresh paint on the outside. Don't know if you've seen it. They have a chicken coop in their backyard.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I've walked past them
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, some people like fresh eggs.
Hey, and by the way, that other yard, cut his grass. Cut his weeds, I mean.
Oh, thank goodness.
But not in
Not
the back.
Oh, good. So we only cut it up front.
Just the front.
For showpiece.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Adam McClintock now, Shane. Adam joining us via StreamYard. You can catch us live on YouTube or Twitter. Hail Varsity Radio, Hurrdat Sports YouTube pages. McClintock, co-founder of Matrix Analytical at CFB_professor on Twitter. Adam, good morning. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, no problem, guys. What's going on?
Oh, just trying to make it. I mean, so it's like you kind of low-key put out the bat signal just by being in the comment section. I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Let's strike while the iron's hot because we got coaches to talk about, buddy. How are you?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Yeah, I just recently found out I could chat in YouTube, so you know I'll probably jump in and out.
Same. You're not the only one.
You get an excuse because like you're a newbie. We're doing the show, so there is no excuse for us. But guess what? We just found out too. We've been having to be babysat this whole time. I told you guys how to do it. I was like, it's a lot of details.
And it turned out to be super easy.
So we're you know, you listen, we're just kind of going through the new faces and new places, and we talk a lot about talent. But for you, let's just start here. How hard is it for just the talent to overcome the coaching? You in your business, you and Dave, you guys got to feel like those two things go hand in hand. We talk a lot about players. A lot of times we don't talk a lot about coordinators and coaches relative to those players, right? Can I have those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I talk about McCarthy without talking about Brian Ferentz?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's the talent. It kind of goes hand in hand. There's cases for both, right? So you think about, you know, I think I brought this up yesterday to you. You know, Auburn under Gene Chizik, right? Gene Chizik wasn't a great head coach. He wasn't. I mean, he had a good staff, but he won when he had Cam Newton and Gus Malzahn calling the plays, right? So in that specific case, the talent was able to overcome the head coach at least in order to be successful. So there are cases of talent overcoming the adequate coaching staff, but it usually evens out. So if you have a bad coaching staff but really good talent, you're going to win about half your games. I mean, that's just how it goes.
Adam, you know, 24/7 Sports released an article determining the 10 best head coaches in college football. They used your guys' formula at Matrix Analyticals by using the coach rating index and the CRI, of course, the grading scale, the grading system, at least over 30,000 individual unit profiles, over 250K annual coaching result reports. I don't even know. I can't count that high. Obviously, I can't even speak right now too. You know, if a coach was designated in an on-field role in that time or span in either FBS or FCS, that's where that database and career numbers go then. So where I'm going with this question is this. I think people could label the top 6 on there. Like if I just asked a college football fan, you could probably name the top 6. But when you get to 7 with Kleiman, then you get to 8 with Hugh Freeze and so forth, Brahm ends up rounding out the top 10. A name that was missing on that list, which was a shock to me, and I know it will be a shock to DB, is Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I happen to hear you guys' conversation.
What? Oh, we're not talking anymore.
I knew this was gonna get DB loose. I knew it.
What gives?
Okay, so the margins at that level are so thin.
Yeah,
they're so picky to get into that top 10. All those coaches are really good coaches, right? Brian Kelly has that 4-8 season at Notre Dame in was it 2011 or something like that, or 2013 or one of those years. With the talent advantage he had at Notre Dame, for him to go 4-8 just tanked his score. Tanked it. Okay. You look at all those other coaches on that list, they don't have bad seasons. There's not very many bad seasons in that list. Okay. Brian Kelly is still a top 15 coach. He's barely outside of it, but that one season tanked him outside of it.
So that's why, and you've listened to me long enough, Adam, so I love numbers, but it's only kind of as a baseline to shape my opinion. I don't know under what scenario, if you gave me Brian Kelly or Jeff Brom, would I take Jeff Brom? And I think Brom's an okay coach. I don't, and who would?
Yeah. I mean, part of having an algorithm like this and trying to be completely, objective is sometimes you're not always going to agree with it, because if you build a model and you agree with it every single time, it's not a good model, because it's just a reflection of your opinion. So I tend to agree with you on Brian Kelly versus some of the names in that list. But, if we're trying to be completely objective, and just go just by the numbers and just what the algorithm tells us, that's what we got to do. And it loves Jeff Brom because of the success he's had at places that didn't have a lot of talent. The talent advantage he had at Western Kentucky was nil. The talent advantage, we all know that the talent advantage he had at Purdue was bottom 100th, right?
Yeah.
And he still won games there. He took Purdue to a Big Ten championship game, or a Big Ten West title. I mean, that's incredible with what Purdue was before he got there. I mean, we all remember Purdue. I think before Jeff Brom got there, Purdue had won 6 games in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
He completely brought that whole program off the mat, and that's not a program known for being able to get off the mat in football. So that's why the algorithm loves Jeff Brom, is because of what he's been able to do with a finite amount of talent.
Adam, a guy that's never won double-digit games, Steve Sarkisian. Texas is, a heavy favorite to win the Big 12. Does that make sense to you, or is that just that reflection of the talent supersedes the head coach?
It's a little of the talent supersedes the head coach, and he's got a really good staff around him. He is staffed really well. Pete Kwiatkowski is a great defensive coordinator. He was wonderful at Washington and at Boise State. He himself is a great offensive play caller. He's got the position coaches there are better than average. The problem is that Steve Sarkisian himself, he's kind of the opposite of what we're just talking about with Jeff Brom. He's always had a tremendous talent advantage, whether that you be at USC or now at Texas or even at Washington when he got there. Those are all programs where he had a talent advantage most games going into the game, and still he hasn't been able to put together, like you said, that uber successful season. We have Steve Sarkisian rated as the 60th best head coach in the country, which puts him almost dead in the middle. Okay, he's average. So Steve Sarkisian is an average head coach. He's not going to get anything more out of the talent than what he's got. And in fact, he's going to underperform it most of the time. So if Texas is able to break through this year, it's probably a product of a couple things. One, there's really not another major power in the Big 12 right now to challenge him as far as talent-wise. He's going to have the most talented roster week in and week out, except for Oklahoma, who is themselves looking at a bounce back year, right? And the fact that he does have a good staff around him. So.
A bounce back year for the school that some compared to on the same trajectory as the falling Nebraska, Oklahoma,
right?
Oh boy, we call that a tease. Adam, we appreciate you holding through the break. We'll finish. We'll kind of go rapid fire through the Big Ten, and I got to ask you about Hugh Freeze and Garrett Riley. One head coach, one coordinator. I'm in on Clemson. I need a vote of Adam confidence.
Adam, stick around. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. For those of you out there, stick around as well, because a lot more, like DB just teased right there, on the college football coaching front. More Coffee and Cream after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. We continue conversations with CFB_professor, the college football professor, co-founder of Matrix Analytical, Adam McClintock. Now, as we wrap up the 7 o'clock hour, he joins us back via StreamYard. Adam, thanks again for holding through the break. Lots to get to, and I'll let DB kick this thing off.
All right, so I'm kind of vibing here with Clemson. I know FSU's the ACC darling. Norvell appears to have that thing going in the right direction after a slow start. How good of a hire was Garrett Riley?
There wasn't a better one at the offensive coordinator position in this offseason. He is that guy. He's, what he did at TCU and what he did at SMU before that. I mean, you think of Sonny Dykes And what was different between Sonny Dykes at Cal and Sonny Dykes at SMU and TCU? It was Garrett Riley. He was the difference. Garrett Riley, we're going through doing our all-conference coaching staffs, right? He wasn't eligible to make the staff because he has under 4 years of experience at his position. That's kind of our cutoff in those types of lists. But if he was able to be in there, he's ranked in the top 10 offensive coordinators in the country right now. He's a tremendous offensive play caller and a tremendous quarterback coach as well. So he's kind of following the footsteps of his older brother, it seems like.
Now, Northwestern's seen better days. We found out officially yesterday David Brown will be elevated to interim head coach. Spent 4 years as DC at NDSU. Northwestern was his first FBS job, and now he's the head coach. Is he going to take a path like Kleiman? Do your numbers, can they expect that or no?
Well, the difference between Brown and Kleiman is Kleiman was actually able to be the head coach at North Dakota State and kind of get his feet wet there and running a high quality FCS program. Brown is a really good defensive coordinator. We really like that hire in the offseason, pulling him out of FCS, but it might be tough for him to take over a situation like Northwestern in his first gig. I kind of feel for the guy a little bit that's what the opportunity he's been given, but we'll see what he does. A lot of good coaches have come out of that North Dakota State program, so we'll see how he is able to turn that into something else.
Yeah, that appears to be a thing with Coach Kleiman in your top 10 and what he's been able to do in case. But I'm with you though on Coach Kleiman. I've seen it firsthand that he's been fantastic. Let me ask you about a little give and take. Illinois loses one, Purdue gains. Who has the bigger impact in year one? Illinois losing Walters or Purdue getting him?
Man, that's a tough one. I think right now, I really like the hire by Purdue. That was a great hire. But probably
Andrew's offended he was voted last in the Big Ten.
Sure was.
Yeah, he's not last in the Big Ten.
Rolled my eyes.
I don't know. That's a really tough call. The culture switch at Purdue is going to be a little tough because you're going from an offensive-minded head, Brian Walters, who's going to want to play defense first, supposedly. So I think the impact is going to be bigger to Illinois right now, just because he was such a good defensive mind, and that Illinois team won so many games last year on the defensive side of the ball. Bielema is a great staffer, so I'm sure he'll figure that out there. But I think in the first season without Walters there might be some growing pains.
Can a coach have an outlier changing teams or conferences like Bielema and still hold his value?
Yeah, because for example.
Lost you there, Adam.
Or slightly above average. He was going against year in, year out. He
struggling with internet connection.
Yeah, that is.
Actually outperformed his talent advantage at a time at Arkansas. So we didn't see that as the massive year that some people did.
Adam, struggling with internet connection there. Can you summarize what you just said?
Oh man.
Did we free up?
Yep, we froze a little bit. Can you give me a quick summary on Bielema on the coaching transition change?
Yeah. His time at Arkansas wasn't as bad as what people think, just because of he had less of a talent advantage than he did at Wisconsin. So him winning 6 and 7 games at Arkansas really wasn't as bad as what people think.
Kyle Whittingham, Morgan Scally, two guys I really like from Utah, but I can't believe that they were only given the 4th best odds to finish number 1 in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I haven't read that, but yeah, that surprises me a lot, especially with Yeah.
Yeah,
That
they had
doesn't make a whole lot of
it was
sense.
USC, it was Oregon, and
maybe UCLA. Which is
Wasn't
weird because
UCLA.
Jonathan Smith might have been the best hire of that year at Oregon State, and nobody talks about them. I can't believe he's the only one left out of that bunch, basically, of that year of hires.
Washington, that was the third.
Oh, yeah, Penix Jr.
Okay. Now, I can maybe get behind USC and Washington challenging Utah for that spot, but I can't get behind Oregon yet. So USC, Washington may be valid, but man, that Utah staff is amazing, and he's going to continue to churn out successful seasons there, and he's going to be always in the mix.
Hey, how good is DeBoer?
We have a theory, all right?
Pause.
All right. He's going to be the next big name in college football, okay? He's if Ryan Day jumps to the NFL, or if Nick Saban leaves Alabama, I would love to see him at Ohio State or Alabama or somewhere like that.
Shoot,
that guy, he's that level of coach. He is he's going to be in that top 10 next year when he has enough years to qualify.
Would it just come down to who pays him the most, though? Like, what if those two schools didn't fork over what just for example, Texas A&M, if they were looking for a coach and they just forked over more money, would he just go there, or would he go for the prowess of the program?
If Alabama or Ohio State wanted him bad enough, Texas
they could offer anything, really.
Yeah.
Kind of a bad scenario.
Burn is a fantastic AD too. Hey, let me ask you something kind of off the radar, but not, because you do know assistants very well. I'm tempted to call Rossi in Minnesota a plug-and-play coach as a coordinator. Is Minnesota capable of being plug-and-play with he and Collins still in together at Minnesota?
He's getting there. Okay, we don't have Rossi rated as highly as some do. We have him as slightly above average defensive coordinator. I'm not there yet. I'm not saying he's a plug and play guy yet. He lost a lot of talent on that defense from last year. Let's just see what he does this season.
It's just mind-boggling. If you've listened to us the last 2 months, I still can't believe people are wondering about Minnesota's offense. It's not their offense that we should be asking about. It's like they lost a ton defensively, and they were really good, especially for a team that didn't get any sacks.
Yeah, I mean that defensive secondary, that my goodness, with him not being able to get any pressure on the quarterback, their defensive backs coaches did an amazing job, along with Rossi.
Outside of the top two, Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten, what do your numbers say in regards to a coach that scares the rest of the Big Ten? Like, if you were looking at the next head coach that scares the rest of the group, who would that be? I
don't want to be a homer, but probably Matt Rule, honestly.
He's got the attention of a lot of coaches in the rest of the conference too. Just being out on this recruiting trail, they're well aware of his potential prowess.
Yeah, Matt Rule is definitely one of the guys that first comes to mind. Another guy, I think Bielema is always going to be a problem at Illinois, just because of how much he knows the conference and how he knows how to win. Okay, in this conference. And then also watch out for Luke Fickell. I know it's his first Power 5 job, but he knows the region. He knows the Big Ten. I'm not going to put him in the same category yet as Rule or Bielema, because this is his first go round at the Power 5 level. But I'm anxious to see what he does at Wisconsin. I'm a lot higher in Wisconsin than most people are. So
I'm right there with you. Let's talk model versus your personal opinion. And I know you're very good at saying, "Hey, this is just what the numbers show," especially when you come out with win totals and stuff. The last couple of years, it's hilarious how people are like, "I thought you were a fan." You're like, "Hey, man, it's the model." Rank it, quickly. Day, Harbaugh, and Mr. Franklin at Penn State when you're talking about if Adam McClintock is starting a program versus what the model says.
If I'm starting a program, I go Harbaugh, Day, Franklin. The model says Day, Harbaugh, Franklin. So
really,
yeah,
model loves Ryan Day.
Yes,
Wait,
it
when he
likes him a
wins a
lot.
ton. Might have something. What is it? 48-5 or 48-6? What's not to like about that?
That's right. That's right. Exactly right.
Let's see if we can do it again this year.
I need one more segment, but I'm good. All right, hey, we're not gonna let. I promise you, we're gonna get to you before the season actually starts. I got more questions.
Sounds great, man. Anytime.
Thanks, Adam. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
That's Adam McClintock, co-founder of Matrix Analytical at CFB_professor.
They've become like they're the go-to source.
Yeah, they are the group people go to.
Oh yeah.
For hey, I need some help. Can you help me?
For sure.
And they're like, yeah, I got your back. And Mike Schaefer's got our back next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency TV. Andrew Rogers live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Just had a couple of great segments with Adam McClintock. You can go back and catch those on the podcast after the show. That's Spotify, that's Apple, that's Google, Amazon. We are talking to a whole bunch of people on the back end of the show, waiting on Mike Schaefer to join. But before we get to him, let's tell you about the rest of the lineup. Malcolm Buttler, co-publisher of the Lincoln Parish Journal and voice of Louisiana Tech at 8:45. Then Mike Sautter at 9 o'clock. He's the high school sports insider for Hurrdat Sports. I think we're still talking to Mike Sautter, right?
Yeah. It is official. Mike Sautter has not been to bed.
Diane Mendenhall, president of Nebraska Pro Volleyball at 9:30, and then Matt Vrzal to close things out at 9:45. Before we move forward, I also want to take a moment to tell you about the Omaha Storm Chasers. Baseball's back. The All-Star break is over. Baseball is back, and you can check out the Storm Chasers in action this weekend against Indianapolis. I was wrong for a good majority of this week, DB, thinking that Indianapolis was the Reds. I got them mixed up with the Bats. Indianapolis.
I probably was in agreement. I don't know.
Indianapolis is the Pirates. So I'm not saying Paul Skeens is going to be in AAA this weekend, but who knows?
He'll be on the fast track, whatever.
Yeah, maybe you'll see if he's not up in the league by the time playoffs roll around. Indianapolis is back in Storm Chaser country. Back in, I think, September. Yeah. You can probably find him there.
Do we have Schaefer?
We did.
Yeah, speaking of being
welcome
back.
in now. Let's welcome in Mike Schaefer. There he is.
How we doing?
Mike J. What's up, buddy?
Nebraska football and recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Mike J. Schaefer, as DB likes to call him. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Schaefer,
everyone doing well? Everyone having a good Friday morning? You guys have your long sleeves on, so you're prepared for this cold 70-degree weather?
Yes, we are. Mm-hmm. Yep. Just making sure.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm?
No. I mean, you got to be careful out there when it gets into the 70s.
It gets a little nippy.
Oh, that's tough. Oh, Mike J starts with jokes. Mike, let me ask you something real quick, because this is important. Inquiring minds want to know. Was the double stack burger that you sent me the picture of as good as it looked in the photo? That thing looked restaurant worthy, and I'm kind of a tough critic.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. So it was just the smash burger, but I didn't flatten it as much as I have in the past. So you let it kind of sit up a little bit more. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I know you hate this cheese, but those Kraft singles melt, and they just look incredible because of it. Like that's why it looked good.
You can't do that, Schaefer. Like, it came out of a plastic wrapper.
That is the American way, though. Put Kraft single on the burger.
I'm just telling you, it's why it looks as photogenic as it does. That cheese melts in like an incredible fashion.
It
probably
looks,
because it's not really cheese, but that's not the real conversation to have, I suppose.
So buried in the lead, though, your potatoes have come a long. You've mastered the fresh potato thing, right? Because it's hard. I think I gave you that idea, and I did say it's hard to hold like the crispness.
Yeah. So they weren't
like
as crisp though. They
really?
were nice and charred and everything, and they looked good. But then both Shelby and I were a little disappointed in how crisp they were.
It's tough.
Well, I don't know. We were given some ideas. Use some starch or flour,
cornstarch.
Some people even like bake them before they throw them on the griddle to kind of help with that too. So I don't know. We'll keep working on that. But the hash browns have become pretty good at this point. Like I'm fairly comfortable with those. The circular potatoes, they're a little bit trickier, like just trying to line that up. And then the difficult thing is you're always trying to time everything to come out at the same time, so it's all still hot. And like that's the part of like restaurants that is always impressive, because trying to do this on your own is, courting disaster in some ways.
How good a command do you feel like you have of your hot spots?
Of the griddle, like where the pretty good. I mean, those things get so hot, like. You can, you can get the whole thing up to like over 600 degrees. And so I feel like there's left two burners are the ones where the hamburger patties always end up, or whatever, the Philly cheesesteaks, whatever we're doing. Like the meat is always on the left two sides. The potato seems to be in that third burner. And then the right burner, because I think it's closest to where the wind can come in at, and I have the less control over how high I can get that temperature. That's like where the buns get toasted or vegetables get sauteed or whatever. So I do kind of have a system down without even realizing I have a system. So I appreciate you for making me think about that.
Chef Boyardee Schaefer.
Well, know your way, right?
Man.
Know
because
how
everybody will tell you that's kind of the key to mastering the Blackstone, is understanding your zones.
That's the key to mastering anything.
Yeah. And that and seasoning. How often are you seasoning that thing?
I haven't done another run of seasoning on it, but I've started doing the putting the coat of oil at the very end of cleaning. And then using the spatula
to smear.
Yeah, I mean, I just started doing that. We already have so much good flavor, but I think from what everyone says, it kind of helps prevent some cracking of the griddle a little bit, and so it's like the best thing you can do after you clean it. There's like a million ways to clean the thing, apparently, but like the thing you should do when you think you're done cleaning it is just get a little oil on there, spread it around, burn it out, and call it good until the next one.
I know. Sorry, are the recruiting beatniks are like, you guys just spent 6 minutes talking food. I mean, listen, it's the summer and it's Shape. We like to have a little fun.
There's not a whole lot happening in recruiting, so
no, it's not. It is July, right?
Yeah. That's what they say. I mean, I've been playing golf, so that's what I care about.
Coach Rule reminded me he is back full-time on the 25th. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink for DB. When you look at what could happen at the end of July, what's going into fall camp, where did you slot Big Ten Media Days for Nebraska's relative importance in the landscape of the Big Ten?
Like just Nebraska's appearance. Well, so I mean, your top three without question are Ohio State, Michigan, and Francis McGillicuddy talking about Big Ten programming. So I mean, nothing can pass up those important things. And then from there, it's pretty much an open ball game. I don't think Nebraska is interesting to the Big Ten media at large. But I think Matt Rule will be. And so Matt Rule will cause a lot of columns to be written about Nebraska from outside media people because he's going to come off interesting in that setting. And that in itself would sort of help rehabilitate a Nebraska program where you had a couple years of Mike Riley, but largely you had two coaches that aren't particularly fond of any media setting to begin with, and Frost and Pelini. I mean, we had the whole opening statement gate last year with Scott Frost. So I think having a coach who seems like he's comfortable in that environment, who's going to try to use it to get some messages across, and I think Nebraska's starting over again. All of those things are going to make them more interesting this year than they probably have been the last couple to the outside media. I mean, certainly the whole thing of media days, though, I mean, 90% of the questions get asked by the people who can show up at practice anyways. So it's just kind of I don't understand why this is still a thing that happens. I mean, you could do this over a Zoom, and the people who really want to hear what Mike Loxley has to say about Maryland don't have to go to Indianapolis to do that. So I question why media days are that important anymore. I really do.
Let me ask you, and you kind of did the quick version of some of the interesting things that have happened to Nebraska heading into media days, right? Remember a couple of years ago, it was Bill Moose came out ahead of time and he used the number 6, and that kind of dominated Big Ten media as well. Your athletic director said 6, and that seems low. And then you mentioned the opening statement gate and who Coach Riley brought and who didn't, and why he played second fiddle. Bo didn't enjoy it. But with Rule, even if you get outside the whole Rule-Aid thing, you can't help but to come away in settings like this, do you think, feeling better about Nebraska than you do just simply because of Rule's character traits, right?
Well, he's a good speaker.
It's almost inevitable.
Yeah, he's a good speaker, and I mean, he
loves the program.
I don't know if this is trademarked. I assume it is. He's a football guy. Like, and football people like listening to him talk. I mean, he talks at all of these other clinics and conferences and coaches conventions and everything else. And the reason for that isn't just that he has a bunch of hot air. It's because he's good at discussing football with people that like to talk football. And I think he's going to be good at crafting, you know, a narrative that some people are going to follow down for their column or whatever about what they think Nebraska is going to be. I think he will, you know, he's mastered the art of being able to say a lot of words without giving away too much, but also making it feel like you've learned something. So I just think he's really good in that setting. And I think that is going to kind of reinvigorate interest in a program that largely other teams aren't that interested in. Other programs aren't that interested in Nebraska. They've been bad. I mean, obviously around here, it's everything, but to everywhere else, it's kind of a joke. And that's going to be a big part of what Matt Rule has to fight against, both in terms of Big Ten Media Days, but also, you know, they got to go win games. They got to give people a reason for them to matter. You know, if Big Ten Media Days are still going to be a thing, you know, you want it to matter if Nebraska's up there talking beyond the local media market.
Are Big Ten Media Days a place you want a quarterback to be at? You would want your quarterback to be at? Not just Big Ten Media Days. I should just say media days in general.
Yeah, I think in general, yes. I mean, I always like the idea of the traditional, your quarterback's one of your leaders, one of your vocal guys, one of the people that, you know, sort of sets a tone for how your team should be received. It's difficult, though, because this environment, sometimes you just want people who are going to represent your program really well, or guys that can sort of show off different facets of your program. Or, you know, sometimes you just want to reward somebody who had a great offseason and they put themselves in position that they deserve to have this trip to Indianapolis and, you know, getting to talk in front of people and everything else. And some people are more comfortable with this than others. So I think a lot of it is you have to match up the personality for what kind of message you want to get across. Certainly you want people that aren't going to say anything that's going to blow back on you. But yeah, I mean, if given a choice and you have a guy that you're comfortable with, I'd always want to have a quarterback there. I just think it's a mindset that I have. It's not a necessity, but it's just something that I think that makes sense.
Do you kind of chuckle how the Big Ten is notorious for not always bringing their thoroughbreds to Big Ten Media Days in terms of their iconic players?
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like Penn State's notorious for bringing punters or, you know, guys that aren't even going to win the All Big Ten punter award or whatever it is. Not even a first team punter. We're just getting the punter. Thanks, James Franklin. You leave Saquon Barkley at home. Nobody had any questions for Saquon. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gamesmanship. I don't know, again, if people aren't comfortable you know, in that environment. I don't know if it's they just don't want someone to talk to their star players. To me, it seems like a disservice, but again, you get 3, and however you choose to attack it sometimes says more about the head guy than it does anything else.
Apparently I'm in the minority, but my level of surprise in terms of participants at Big Ten Media Days appears to be just the opposite of everybody else. I most understood Piper. I was probably the most surprised by Reimer, and Sims was somewhere in the middle. Let me guess, that's not your order either in terms
No, I think that's fair. I mean, Ethan Piper is that's still one of the best interviews I can remember from the spring. I mean, he had the most to say about how it felt to be a kid that grew up around Nebraska football, and then you get there, and then the magic is kind of gone for you, and you're supposed to kind of work through this in an environment where you don't feel like, you know, you don't feel like it's a team. You don't feel like it's cohesive. I mean, he had some really, I thought, eye-opening quotes about what it was like in the final season. And so I also think he's a guy that they're rewarding because he had a great offseason. I think he's a guy that everybody's like, oh, he's not going to be a starting offensive lineman.
Remember when he was the guy that was dunking and jumping 30-some inches? And
I mean,
he's a good athlete.
He's one of those players that people feel like the book has been written on and they don't need to see the final chapter. And I just think that's unfair. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ethan Piper's a starter or if they have 6 guys and they end up rotating someone in. But I think he's one of their linemen. They like him a lot. Luke Reimer surprises me because he doesn't always seem as comfortable in the interview setting.
Yeah.
And so
especially as the ambassador type. Like he came a long way this spring. He surprised me the most, but everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Like, duh, he's a no-brainer. I was like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see that. I mean,
I think he possesses a lot of the traits, though, that Schaefer was talking about when talking quarterbacks.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
I'm rewarding somebody this offseason that was working hard. And, like, if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think Reimer fits the bill.
Right. Well, and then the other thing is I think you always want to have at least one guy that can represent your in-state in Nebraska. You have at least one player on each side of the ball. I think there's some other stuff that goes into it. And so maybe you chose Reimer over Quentin Newsome or Ty Robinson. I don't know who the other person that you would bring. And then the interesting thing with Jeff Sims is that it's a guy that has never actually started a game for you. I mean, they did that with Tanner Lee, I think, and it was kind of like a weird deal. I don't remember if Frost did it with Adrian Martinez too.
Well, remember all the scuttlebutt then is that you're bringing a pup.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that? And then by year 3, we were tired of him coming. So like, you can't win for losing.
Hey, you got to speak for yourself. I wasn't. I was good with Adrian being there.
Hey, speak for yourself.
What are you doing?
Well, I just felt like the fan base was so cynical because it had turned into he's always going to say the right things.
Yeah, it's really weird how a guy who largely, you could ask him questions and he was going to give you answers. Then it becomes like, we're not getting deep enough with him or whatever. I mean, sometimes you think that fans want these guys to like lay down on the couch and it's a psychoanalysis that's supposed to be broadcast for the entire world. When really all you want to know is why he decided to throw that slant route instead of going with the one-on-one over the top. So it's kind of funny, like what the expectation of what you're supposed to get out of interviews is for some people, because you'd think for some of it's supposed to be, more of why this and not that. And for others, it's like, let's get on the couch. What was your relationship like with your mom when you were 4? But that tells you just how big the fan base is that you're getting both sides of that all the time.
Okay, so speaking of the fan base here, 50 days away, less than 50 days now until kickoff.
48 I saw this morning.
Yeah, and I know a lot of Nebraska.
Jamie Burrow.
It may not seem like it because I've been here for such a short time, but I do know a good amount of Nebraska fans that are still skeptical about how things will go. And they're prone to hitting the panic button too, which always has me shaking my head a little bit. Rash reactions, things like that. My question to you, Schaefer, is this. In year 1 of a new head coach, should you ever hit the panic button during the season, or should year 1 be looked at as a freebie?
No, there's no freebies in college football. If there was, you wouldn't see coaches fired after their first or second year now. And that's become almost, I wouldn't say common, but way more common than it ever should be, because it takes years to sort of put your stamp on something. So the idea that a guy, and what was it, Willie Taggart got 1 year at Florida State or something like that. I mean,
he may have had 2.
I mean, it's just one of those things where some people are going to do it. I don't think you should, but it's hard to know, right? Like, so we've never seen a Matt Rule team at Nebraska. What if they come out and they average like 16 points a game for the first 6 games of the year? What if they come out and they're giving up 40 points a game for the first 6 games? So, without knowing how it's going to look like, it's hard to know what would incite the panic, but it's not like it takes that much to incite panic. So if they lose to Colorado, people are going to be slamming that panic button. They're going to be throwing it at you guys through their computer screens. So, it's all going to depend on sort of how it plays out. But me personally, no. I mean, I think this year you have to allow for things to work themselves through, because it's not a finished product. It's nowhere near a finished product. There's a lot of trial and error in here. There's a lot of players that haven't really played as much meaningful football as what we'd want to believe. Like, there's people that talk about how MJ Sherman could be an all-conference player. He's not played a lot of football. Chief Borders hasn't played a lot of football. Corey Collier hasn't played a lot of football. Like these transfer portal guys, because they come from these schools, the expectation is that they're just going to step right in and it's Big Ten and they're going to do well. They gotta prove it. They gotta go out there and earn those snaps. They gotta earn every rep they're going to get in the next game, in the first game. And so with that, there's a lot of openings for things to go wrong. And I think people have to acknowledge that even if they start out hot, like let's say they start 4-0, they could still hit something, a bump in the road that causes them to go from 4-0 to 4-2 to, 5-3 to whatever. Like, you just have to be able to ride the roller coaster with this team. And it's easier to say than it is to do. But the reality is you're getting yourself into that chair, and then we're slowly lurching up, and we don't know what's on the other side of that drop. We have no idea. And you just have to acknowledge that, especially in the first year, it's going to be, it's going to be completely unknowable. It absolutely is.
Your sarcasm across all levels makes you one of the perfect people to ask for this. From a recruiting standpoint, like in-state, the media relationship, the fan base, where Nebraska is in their tenure. If I'm going to try to peg a budding romance, who has, and now keep in mind, you know what you know about the second half of this question, but who would had more potential for a torrid love affair? Was it the combination of Bill Moose and Scott Frost, or is it Trev Alberts and Matt Rule? If they have success.
Well, I mean, people were pretty far over their skis for Bill Moose and Scott Frost. I mean, there was more than enough people in the media.
It's the anti-Northwestern, right?
Yeah.
Frost antics were Bill Moose's fault, and Northwestern, like, oh man, what are we supposed to do with Pat Fitzgerald?
I would argue that Bill Moose's antics were Bill Moose's own fault, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
If he wasn't so hands off. Oh, God.
I mean, if he was in the state for half of his first, couple years of his tenure, that'd probably help too, but that's a different conversation. No,
because that's on the heels of me saying if Nebraska goes 2-0, just 2-0, Schaefer, it seems like we're ready to just be over the moon.
If they win that game against Minnesota, what do you think Friday's going to be like around here? People are going to go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
They're absolutely going to go nuts. And some of that is Nebraska hasn't beaten Minnesota a while. Some of that is Nebraska's an 8-point underdog. Some of that is it's a win against a team on the road. They're 1-0 for the first time since 2019. I mean, so there's a lot that kind of goes into it.
That is crazy.
Yeah. When you say that out loud, it just hits like it is a total slap in the face. Absolute slap in the face. 1-0 for the first time since 2019. And those losses, Ohio State, okay, you can acknowledge that one. Illinois and their odd even front that nobody could understand, and Northwestern with the onside kick. Those are your 3 0-1 starts. So that was fun to revisit.
I am going to miss the days of a press conference on Monday and something completely different being said by Tuesday or Thursday in the next one.
No. Yeah,
you remember those days, Shave?
I do.
Wait a minute. We practiced against an even front. We practiced a fair amount, huh?
I would venture to say that the Matt Rule team will probably be more coordinated in media effort than the previous regime would have been. Just kind of throwing that out there. I also wouldn't look for the head coach to be at odds with his offensive coordinator at the first press conference after the first game either. I wouldn't look for that.
Yeah, remember that? Hey, just we need to think together. We need to come together. We need to think as a team.
That was so embarrassing. And then there was people that were like, oh, well, what do you want him to say? And it's like, well, I don't want him to throw the guy that he hired that he told everyone that this was going to fix everything. I'd rather not see that person thrown under the bus after the first game.
5-0 season, 4 years. Some say 6.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Mike Schaefer, appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Varsity Radio.
Two receivers wide right. Another one.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Hail Varsity Radio.
Two receivers wide right. Another one at the bottom of your screen. McNeil takes the handoff, fires the slant pattern. It is caught over the middle and spinning away is Kyle Maxwell. A well-delivered slant pattern. It is caught over the middle and takes the handoff, fires the slant pattern. It is caught over the middle and spinning away is Kyle Maxwell. A well-delivered ball, and then a nice effort by Maxwell after the... And then a nice effort by Maxwell after the catch. Louisiana Tech puts the bulk of its players well away from the ball on the numbers on the near side. And then a nice effort by Maxwell after the catch. Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech.
Varsity Radio.
Louisiana Tech puts the bulk of its players well away.
Varsity Radio.
Louisiana Tech puts the bulk of its players well away from.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. 590 ESPN Radio in Omaha, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Happy to have you with us. 888-638-4876. If you'd like to give us a call at any point, tell us what's on your mind. You can also get involved in the comment section on the YouTube page, and we appreciate all of you there who are sending us messages throughout the show. Yesterday was kind of like a boring afternoon for me, DB. Found myself watching rugby at one point, but then I was looking at a lot of the NFL over-unders after the show, and I'm trying to craft up like a fancy bet B. Edwards had me on this.
Yeah,
this
you
big
guys are
train,
something
and
else.
I'm trying to get this big parlay going. But as I went through some of the numbers, and I know some of them were shocking to you too, and we were talking
one in particular.
We were talking to McClintock earlier on in the show about over-under totals for college football too, which some of those are skewed a lot of times as well. But as I looked at the best over-unders to bet, I found myself looking more at unders more than I did overs because everybody seemed to be given a lot of wins and not factoring in enough conference losses, enough division losses.
Yeah.
And one in particular, one example I'm going to bring up is this. The rookie quarterbacks, okay? Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. You would expect their win totals to be what?
I would say for Carolina and Bryce Young, I would say 5.5.
Carolina's at 7.5.
And Stroud, God, that division. So I'm going to pick a little higher because I know Indianapolis is. And you told me Indianapolis was 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
And if Indianapolis is that low, that means they think some other teams in that division are going to win. So for whatever the reason, Houston's will be higher than Carolina's, but it shouldn't be.
It's
I'll put
actually
Houston
lower.
Okay, I'll put Houston's win total at 4.5.
5.5. So you were close. I think when I said lower, it made you change your mind a little bit. But 5.5 is what Houston's given, which made me laugh because of exactly what you just said. Well, how can Indianapolis be 6.5? How can
who's winning all the games?
5.5. Who's winning all the games? Is it Jacksonville or is it Tennessee?
Doesn't Jacksonville have a double-digit win total?
Jacksonville is, hang tight for me. I got to scroll.
If they do, that seems high.
Jacksonville is 9.5.
Okay.
Which means they're saying 10. But they're coming in with a whole bunch of hype this season.
Let me get this straight. Houston's at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis is at 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville's at 9.5.
And Tennessee is at what?
I'm shocked. Is it 8?
7.5. Yep, 8 wins.
Huh. See, I don't think on paper, but they do have Vrabel. And I know what some Tennessee fans say. I don't want Josh mad at me, but I know some in-game stuff leaves things to be desired, but Vrabel is generally held in pretty high regard. I just wonder can they get after the passer, and are they going to score enough points?
It can't just be the running back show. Can't just be the Henry show.
Yeah, like who's throwing the ball with any sort of consistency?
Is it Ryan Tannehill? Because I don't feel overly comfortable with that. Is it Malik Willis, who everybody thinks has taken a huge step up? And when I say everybody, it's Malik Willis's family. And Will Levis, who was supposed to be, the 3rd overall pick, and then ended up going 31st or 32nd, second round?
That's so only one team has the projection of a potential double-digit win season, and that's Jacksonville.
Yep.
Okay.
But then it's funny because I look at the division.
And Indianapolis seems extremely low.
I look at the division you house in. Cincinnati is 11.5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, right? The Steelers are 8.5. Which you're given.
Law of averages, because you're going to be 500.
Tomlin,
yeah.
Right? Then you look at the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns are 8.5. So we're getting pretty high win totals here because the only team left is who? The Ravens.
They should be 10.5.
And the Ravens are 9.5. So you have really high win totals.
See that, but that just lets you know the division, though, because they're thinking everybody's got a chance to be no worse than
really
9-7, and one team's going to win.
But you're going to have who's dropping off. You're going to have some teams drop off.
Well, there's those non-divisional games. You could have you could
make up your weight.
Yeah, you could have 3, 9, and 8 teams.
Man, wouldn't that be something in that division?
Well, the worst record in the division last year was 7-10, and that was Cleveland.
Yeah, that's pretty insane,
right? So, it's doable. It's doable. I'm still shocked at What's the NFC South? Because that has to be equally as
Tampa
sketchy.
Bay is 6.5.
Okay.
New Orleans.
8.5, maybe.
I misspelled New Orleans. Didn't put an A in there. 9.5. But Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess.
So you kind of have to be cool with that.
They get Mike Thomas back.
Is he going to stay healthy?
Well, shoot, he took a year off. Pretty fresh.
We know the Panthers. What did I say? 8.5?
No, that's too high. I think you said 6.5, didn't you?
No, I think I said 8.5.
I don't understand.
7.5. I'm sorry.
Okay, but still,
not yet. Still 8, and then 8.5 may be the Falcons. Which
that
people
seems
thought
high.
was very high.
That seems high. What's the ATL?
It's 8. Over/under's 8 right now.
Man, but you know what though? That's about how I think it'll finish. I said off air to you yesterday. Wouldn't shock me if Atlanta won the division, but I still make the Saints the fave. So if it was New Orleans and Atlanta, and how fitting is that? Two teams, two franchises that hate one another. That's a bad division.
Who knows who's going to come out of it?
But it's not. It is the most wide open though, because even the AFC South has a clear-cut one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, because if you think Jacksonville's getting to 10, those seem high.
For the NFC?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very high. But then you look at the West, and the West with the Cardinals.
Well, no, it's going to be at the
Rams.
Cardinals' expense because the Cardinals' win total can't be more than 5.
5.5. And it's plus odds, I believe. I think it's plus 100.
I mean, does Geno Smith have some regression?
Not as much as people think.
Dude, he was pretty good last year.
Well, he was 3rd in overall touchdowns, I believe. He was NFL Comeback Player of the Year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Seattle's win total is at 9 right now.
Yeah, that sounds right. They won 9 games last year.
So San Francisco, double digits. Seattle, next. You're going to probably beat up on
the Rams and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't see
the Rams are at 6.5.
The Rams
7.5.
6.5, and it's shaded to the under. The Rams may be in a little bit of trouble.
Mm-hmm. They're old. They got old. They won a Super Bowl, and
they went all in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe the reports, I was playing the Pat McAfee clips and stuff.
Like the Cubs in baseball,
where they shopped Stafford in the offseason quietly. The Rams, I just don't see what their future is with their cap situation. Because you're on the hook with an old quarterback. I mean, he's good. I like
Great
Stafford. I like Stafford more than
the average
than most.
Joe.
Yeah. But that roster is not. It's
Cooper Cup friendly.
They don't have any. They don't have any depth.
No. And they struck out in the running backs in the running back room. They completely struck out there.
Did you hear Melvin Gordon the other day?
About what? Because I've heard a lot of things from Melvin Gordon this offseason.
But I kind of agree with him. He said it was on 1180. It was with I'm drawing a blank. He said that running back is undeniably the worst position to play in the NFL.
And I would agree with that.
That is unbelievable.
Because you get beat to all heck.
Well, and you got,
and if you're really
and
good,
I think his example was you got the 28-year-old somethings that got released.
Yeah, with Zeke, with
Dalvin, and I'm missing one. And Saquon can't get paid. You know what's weird though?
That makes me laugh.
So what they have until is it Tuesday to get the deal done?
Yep.
Or Monday, Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. Either way,
17th. Right? I
yeah,
think
Monday. Okay, so does $3 million more a year seem like it should put an organization over the top?
No,
because that sounds like that's the difference between Saquon and the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking for 16, and they're saying 13.
Okay.
But if you're Saquon Barkley, why wouldn't you want McCaffrey money?
And we talked about it with the NFL. It just seems like, hey, let's go young.
I just couldn't believe he said. I was trying to go by
money.
positions. I was like, shoot, would I rather be a safety?
Let's go back to college and talk Louisiana Tech football next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
Louisiana Tech puts the bulk of its players well away from the ball. On the numbers on the near side, a speed handoff. The pitch goes to Harris, who is diving for the pylon, and he is in. An odd formation, a bit of trickery. Smoke Harris, coming from left to right, was able to get to the pylon, and Louisiana Tech converts its first run. Converts its first.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
Converts. Tech converts. Pylon and Louisiana Tech converts. Converts.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon, Benning, Andrew Rogers, happy to have you with us here on a Friday. The boss starts to roll in. Big boss. I think I tell him.
And you're not talking about a business either.
No. Yeah, different one. This is the sports card. This is Jag. Before we get into conversations about Nebraska's schedule, let's tell you a quick thing about Dyer Law, D-Y-E-R Law, their team to provide you with the helping hand you need, especially when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's Dyer, D-Y-E-R .law. When looking at the schedule, DB, I think people forget that. Guess who plays at Louisiana Tech? DeColdis Crawford. Do we remember DeColdis Crawford here in Nebraska?
I hope he's healthy. He was a real likable guy.
Yeah.
I hope he bounced back because he was likable, really likable.
That very familiar name, and one that I think people just kind of forgot about up until this moment, because when I was reading articles
and up
about
until that point, he had the best NIL deal going.
Absolutely did.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not play off his name there? I mean, that was perfect. Well executed.
Heating and cooling, the coldest.
Let's welcome in Malcolm Buttler, now co-publisher of the Lincoln Parish Journal and voice of Louisiana Tech, at LA Tech M Buttler on Twitter. Malcolm, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are we doing?
Good, Malcolm. We're good. Appreciate your time. We're just trying to catch up on Nebraska's schedule and get some insight. How are you?
And I'm doing great. It's a Friday morning. I'm going to play golf this afternoon, so I'm in a good space.
Yeah, always in a good space when you're playing golf. You know, such a rich history at the quarterback spot. Phil Robertson, who is a Duck Dynasty star, then led into Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, my guy. Yeah.
And now a proven transfer in Hank Bachmeier, who had plenty of success at Boise State, left in kind of a weird way only 4 games into last season after the OC was fired at Boise State. You got the skill positions covered. Do they finally have the guy, though, that can boost this offense and take them well above 6th in the conference in points per game and yards per game?
You know, we hope so. I know that during spring ball, Sonny Cumbie was extremely impressed with Hank in a number of areas, his leadership skills, how he came here and just almost instantly became a leader. And that's not an easy thing to do, right, to get an entire locker room that you've never been in to follow you. And so, yeah, I think Sonny's really excited about what he saw from Hank, both on the field and in the locker room. And, you know, we've had some good quarterbacks. Hey, you know, Parker McNeil was really good for us last year. The problem was we couldn't keep him healthy. We had so many injuries at so many positions last year on our way to 3-9. We were decimated on the defensive side of the football. But Parker McNeil was a guy last year that really could throw a great deep ball. He had some great targets, but he couldn't stay healthy. And so that was one of our downfalls last year. But they're really excited about Hank Bachmeier. Again, he hadn't suited up one single time yet for Louisiana Tech. He's shown he can have success as a D1 quarterback from what he did at Boise State. So we hope he's the guy.
Yeah, interesting. It's a little bit of a backwards analogy, but if there's going to be some fire, there's probably got to be some smoke, right? I mean, one of the best in the business at what he does. How much of a safety net can a guy like Smoke Harris be?
He's big time. He's been good for us. I mean, he's about to play his 6th year of college football, so he's a pretty experienced guy. He's a multidimensional guy. You know, he led Conference USA last year in kickoff returns and punt returns, so he's a great specialist. He's a guy that has caught a ball, I think, in 36 straight games. He ranks number 3, I believe, in the country as far as active reception leaders. So he's been a guy that his entire career, you know, you can throw him a little 4-yard out and he can turn into a 34-yard gain or take it to the house. So he's a really exciting guy. I've heard he's in even better shape than he's been recently. So we're excited about what he can do. And you mentioned, I mean, he's not our only weapon that we have on the perimeter, but he's really kind of the safety net.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because, you know, I'm on a committee. We do the Jet Awards every year, and we vote. And Smoke was in the discussion all the way down the stretch of the voting committee. He is so multifaceted. He can be a jet sweep guy. He can be the quick screen guy. Just the quick game. His ability to get vertical in a hurry. And is he really only $180? Because I don't know if he's 5'7".
Yeah, no, I think that's being a little generous. He's not a big guy at all. And you're right. We line him up all over the place. We'll line him up in the backfield. We'll bring him in motion, like you said, with the jet sweep. We'll do whatever we can to try to get him in space and get the football in his hands. But he's a smaller guy. He's well put together.
He looks yoked.
So, you know, he's not a skinny small guy. He's a pretty strong, stocky guy at 5 foot, whatever we want to call him. But yeah, we like getting the football in his hands in as many different ways as we can in open field.
Marquise Crosby may be the conference's best runner too. However, the team was still 8th in rushing yards per game and allowed 32 sacks, which was the fourth most in the conference. On paper, when we looked at everything, you talked about some of the skill guys there, the quarterback, the running back. It seems like everything offensively is A-okay, but is there an area that brings you some worry where the sun doesn't shine so bright?
Yeah, sure. It's the offensive line. I mean, you just said it right. I mean, you allow 32 sacks, and you know, Marquise had some pretty good numbers last year, considering, you know, offensive line wise, we were shaky at times last year, and so I think that is the big key. I mean, you feel like you've got a good wideouts, you've got a good quarterback, you've got solid running backs. Can you block for them? Can you protect them? Can you open up those holes? And we've got some experienced guys coming back. So the experience is there. You just hope they take a step up because we've got to be better. We can't allow 32 sacks this year and think that, A, you're going to have a lot of success offensively, and B, you're going to be able to keep Hank Bachmeier, you know, healthy all year long. So I think the offensive line on the offensive side of the football is the big question mark.
So it's interesting, Malcolm, because Sonny Cumbie, it just with his offensive prowess and his history of what he's familiar with, the quick game could probably help you out in terms of keeping those sacks down. But what is the expectation level kind of amongst that fan base with Sonny Cumbie going into his second year?
Well, I think Louisiana Tech fans and the Ruston community love Sonny Cumbie. He is as down-to-earth, friendly guy. He is a team player. You know, in a lot of ways, he's not your, and I don't mean this ugly, he's not your prototypical FBS football head coach right now. I mean, you'll go out to a Louisiana Tech tennis match and Coach Cumbie's out there supporting the tennis team, right? I don't think you see that everywhere across the country. He has really bought into the community. Ruston, Louisiana is 25,000. It's a really family college town, and Sonny is the perfect fit. So having said all that, obviously he's got a track record. He's worked for some really good head coaches, and we're not allowing last year and what happened, because we were decimated on both sides of the football last year with injuries. I don't think that has soured anybody on Sonny Cumbie.
We've spent some time today, Malcolm, talking about over-unders in football, and the over set at 5.5, which is also currently 170, minus 170, a pretty heavy favorite. So with everything that you know about this team and what you've talked about, is 6 wins as much of a lock as, you know, Vegas is making it seem?
Man, I would love to say 6 wins is a lock. Unfortunately, you know how things go, and a lot of it depends on whether you stay healthy. That's the one thing that Vegas just does not know, right? So I think if this group can stay healthy, you know, we've talked obviously a ton on the offensive side of the football. Our biggest issue last year was on the defensive side of the football, and we just could not. The second half of the season, we couldn't stop anybody. And we lost our leading tackler at middle linebacker, who was a kid that from day one as a true freshman led Louisiana Tech in tackles. He has since transferred. He is no longer here. They have brought in, we've got 48 new scholarship guys on the roster, which is unbelievable when you think about it. But I guess welcome to this day and age of college football, right? And so they brought in a number of D1 guys at linebacker, and I think that is going to help us tremendously. We had 2 pretty good corners last year. We got beat up at safety. We had some good safeties, but they couldn't stay on the field. So, again, it goes back to, can you stay healthy? Can a lot of these newcomers come in and get the job done at linebacker? We got one of those 2 corners I mentioned graduated last year. So we'll see. If we can slow people down, then, yeah, and stay healthy, I think we got a realistic chance to maybe win 7, possibly 8 ball games.
How key is it for you, Malcolm, before we let you go in the non-con, right? You're going to be on the road at SMU. You're obviously at Lincoln. Health matters. Do you ever look risk-reward with those non-con games and kind of, you know, there's going to be a good payday. You want to play well and put the program on the map. La Tech, it's famous. 1998, Troy Edwards, not going to probably be afraid to come to Lincoln. But the non-con puts you in good shape, do you think, for the season?
I think so. You know, Nebraska is, you know, our only quote-unquote Power 5 that we have on the roster. You mentioned SMU. You know, they usually have a really good program as well. So, it doesn't matter where we're going in there to win, and that's what it's been historically, right? You mentioned what Troy and Tim Rattay did there in '98. We lost the game. I'm not sure a team has ever garnered as much national publicity losing the ball game by 4 touchdowns, right? I mean, we got beat by 4 touchdowns, and you'd have thought we just won the national championship because of what those 2 guys did that day. But yeah, we've beaten Alabama numerous times, not recently, but in their place. We've beaten Michigan State, Oklahoma State. We've had a lot of Miami. We've had some really good upsets over the years, and when we go into these places, the expectation is to go in and win.
Malcolm, good luck this season. We appreciate your time, and maybe we'll talk again sooner and, I guess, closer to game day. Appreciate it, Malcolm.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
You too. That's Malcolm Buttler. When we come back, we'll change gears and talk high school with Mike Sautter in Vegas.
Shout out Marty Cordero, your Los Bulldogs.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
I would agree, Damon.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
It's that time again, as we do every Friday. We talk to our main man, Mike Sautter, here for this segment. We have Diane Mendenhall and Matt Vrzal coming up later on in the hour. But before we do anything, there's our guy right there in the hotel room. Mike, can I say good morning? Like, is it safe to say good morning? Should I say good evening? Like, what is it for you?
I don't know.
Whoa.
I said I don't know.
Okay.
We got you. I see the new sphere thing that like has
the sun.
The sphere.
You're talking
like
the thing that looks like the world. Yeah.
Right there. It's right there.
I see it.
So yeah, it's right there. It's kind of cool. They had like
basketball downtown Omaha, right? Oh wait, no.
Dude. Sautter, I'm hoping to get you through this unscathed. What happened to our well laid out plan yesterday? It was okay, quick drink to get on the plane. You were gonna temporarily lose your mind. Then you were gonna try to get some sleep, do the interview, then go back to bed. Where did I miss the all-nighter?
Yeah, I don't
know. He's smiling.
The go back to bed, the go to bed part.
Yeah.
The first step has not happened yet.
Clearly. You went to Denny's in Las Vegas. Why?
Because it was open.
Open and honest.
Yeah, it was open and it was actually pretty good. I will say after this segment, I am going to go to sleep.
Hey, you just let us know. Let us know. Just unplug. If you're done, unplug, set it aside.
It'll be a few hours. I mean, I think the first game I got to be at is 3 o'clock, right?
Vegas time, yeah.
Yeah. So I will. I'm gonna take a nap.
You look okay. You at least changed. That's good.
No. I just put this on. I was.
You didn't change. Wow.
He wanted to let you know he hasn't showered yet, DB.
What is good? So, did you accomplish what you wanted
to? Rogers, I haven't gone to sleep yet.
I know. That's what I'm saying,
dude.
Just add to it.
Like, yeah. I mean, I got like I'm still like dress shirt on under the
hey, you're vibing.
Yeah, the no sleep thing is real, right? Like it's you don't just talk about it, you be about it.
Oh boy.
Put that on a t-shirt.
So what was the drink of choice? Drinks of choice.
I don't know.
Water, right?
I had some water with the Denny's breakfast.
Mixed in water.
Yeah, the Denny's breakfast about an hour and a half ago was pretty good, and I had some water.
Yeah. Was that the first time you'd seen the sun come up when you weren't heading to work?
Second time I've seen the sun come up in Vegas in my life, actually.
Wow.
Was this time better than the last, or?
Much better. Yeah.
Okay.
Feel a lot better and more of an adult this time than last time. But loosely worded term at this point, I think.
Adult. Yeah. Hey, so you just finished a stint. I was surprised to see you do the segment. You were talking local recruiting prowess and in-state recruiting, man. When you started like going through the homework and doing it, has your opinion changed on how this year's class could end or will end versus how you thought it was going to start? It seems to be a lot deeper than when we first were having these year ago conversations.
Yeah, I think it's probably the deepest class we've maybe ever seen. I mean, as far as football goes, right? Basketball, not so much, but football, you have 12 guys with power conference offers right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that is incredible. And you have over 20 group of 5 offers as far as kids, if you add them all up, and it's amazing. It really is. And, Nebraska can't take them all. So people like me will say, oh, remember they missed on this kid when this, when someone does something well. But at the end of the day, you have to really think about what it looks like. And this class is just, it's phenomenal. I mean, how do you do a Super 6?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I actually think the Super 6 will be fairly easy.
It will. Here's what I
think there's going to be one guy potentially that I think could have some hurt feelings.
I think it'll be. Do you take all 3 from Bellevue West?
No,
like you can't, right?
I don't think they. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. But you take Danny Kaline. Kaylin, sorry, my bad. You take DK. You take one of the 2 receivers.
Yeah.
You take Carter Nelson just because national ranking, right? That's 3. I think you take Caleb Benning. I think you take probably like the rest of the commits to make it easy. So you don't get as much blowback, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's it. But then which one do you leave out? Do you leave out like a Jones? Probably he's probably the odd man out, maybe, along with one of the 2 receivers from Bellevue West are probably the odd man out.
What do you do with Pyfrom?
That's tough, right? Maybe not. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how much they know, right? So
this might be one of those years where actual prowess in games played will matter, not just offers.
Yeah,
because I think you have to get past offers.
Yeah, and frankly, like when I worked at the World Herald and was a part of that group that made the Super 6, it was literally Sam McEwen, me, and our boss. I mean, that was it. And I look back on it and I think it's funny because people had a major problem with us taking Max Duggan as a Super 6 guy. That turned out
was it the Council Bluffs thing?
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's right there. And part of it. And then, we had some talk about Blaze Gunnarsson. We kind of, maybe reached on a little bit as far as in the coverage area. But, it's really hard. It is really hard to pick those 6 and only 6. And if I know Sam, they're only going to do 6.
Yeah.
They're not going to do more. And people are going to be mad and there's going to be hurt feelings. I mean, last year we talked, hey, who is the guy that I said deserved to be on the Super 6? Sam Sledge. I said it over and over and over. And he took it personal. Like he really did.
I kind of feel like you bring him up. It's interesting. I feel like he's kind of the forgotten man in this local class this year. Like,
not a lot of people talk.
That's the first time we bought Sam Sledge up in 4 months.
Hey, Sam Sledge is going to be a starting center or guard for Nebraska in 2 years.
Ooh, calling your shot. I like that though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. How about Ethan Piper going to Big Ten Media Days? Does that warm the? Does that?
Yeah.
We followed him a long time, man, and he's come a long way. Remember, not too long ago, he was kind of the whipping boy.
Yeah. He was. He was awful.
And then he's kind of come back full circle, and now he's representing Nebraska in Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah, he was so terrible, right? Like he was like the worst offensive lineman on the team, and
like a lot of sarcasm going on.
Yeah, like he just couldn't play at all. And
here we go. We did sarcasm at 8. We do sarcasm at 9.
He needed to go back to the defensive line and whatever.
Both Mike J's, Mike J. Schaefer and Michael Jerome Sautter.
Yeah, both Mike J's.
Jerome, but it's actually Lee, like L-E, which is very old white person name.
That's my dad's middle name.
That's my sister's middle name.
What?
Oh, Tracy Lee.
Yeah. Anyway, Ethan Piper is super cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
You hear that?
Well, you got jokes? Just don't say anything too slick, Jerome.
Hey, Ethan Piper's a really cool story because he went from like, oh, he was awful and should have never been offered a scholarship and all this stuff, to now he's probably going to be captain and starter and all that stuff. So kind of cool. Really cool, actually. Norfolk Catholic just seems to keep producing pretty good football players.
Yeah.
Miller was a stud.
Yeah, I don't know what maybe Coach Beller just knows what he's doing. He's really good, obviously.
Well, you don't win that many games and stumble into success.
Right, but players, like, he produces a lot for a C2, C1, C2 swing team.
Yeah.
Like they produce a lot of guys, like a lot. And Ethan Piper's one. So
hey, let me ask you something though, because we got into this discussion. We're getting ready for team camps coming up next week, and we're looking at our schedule and just trying to map out kind of some of the breakdowns. When you look at teams on the cusp that are supposed to be good or that have a chance to be good, who do you think is most likely to not meet expectations? Millard South. Wait, I'm going to give you 4 choices.
Okay.
Millard South, Millard North, Omaha North, or Kearney.
Ooh.
All teams that should be safely in the top 7, 8.
10. Yeah, at least easily in the top 10. I guess probably Millard North. I don't know why, because I think Millard North is like they're my sleeper team for sure. I think they win at least 1 playoff game, if not 2. I think Millard North. Yeah, I think Millard North has a chance to be pretty dang good.
We're watching their film. They're better on the O line and D line than people don't give specific names because I think it's hard at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
Their O line D line is better than I think the public gives it credit for.
Right. I think they're probably like, because Kearney's going to be good. Lincoln's a little down, right? Like they kind of jumped down a little bit. So I think Kearney might have a little bit. And I think Millard South's going to be really good. Just need a little, figure out the quarterback thing. You were talking young quarterback. Mm-hmm. You need some consistency there. But their defensive line, Millard South's defensive line is going to be probably the best defensive line in the state.
Really?
JR's, they're really good.
Yeah, that's a lofty statement, but
Ada Miller, JR, I mean, they're really good.
Yeah.
All 3 are Division II or FCS, if like at least Division II players at a minimum. All 3. I'm not talking scheme and stuff. I'm just talking like talent.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Yeah, they're right there. So
I just was pitting that against like Henderson and Terry and Osler and RJ Eckert and Campbell, and I mean there's some
boys.
There's some really good D lines.
Is it? I have time to talk about this, but is it time that
10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm just saying. Is it? At what point is Onsler and Campbell like, all right, like
our guys?
Yeah, you've been a name for enough, right? Like, let's go prove it now, right? Like, show me.
I think JQ could make the case. I think we ask opposing coaches. He belongs in the discussion of top D lineman. And Campbell, remember, he was young.
I know.
And he's still Cam's only going to be a junior.
He started as a freshman, which is pretty impressive.
He's going to be okay. I think it's time.
You know what I'm saying, though, right? Like we talked about these guys. We talked about these guys. We talked about these guys.
The problem, though, with JQ and RJ is they don't have prototypical size.
No, they don't. Yeah.
I mean, we're playing 210 pound D linemen.
They're not. It's not normal watch because it's dying because I haven't plugged in it all night. So yeah.
What are you expecting to see in Vegas this weekend?
What am I expecting? I would like to see the ETG 17s play pretty good because they're sort of have it figured out without a rope now. I think that was a big thing for them losing him. I really do, or him not playing, finishing out the summer. And I mean, hey, he's got major personal stuff.
He's got a lot going on.
I ain't trying to. I'm not knocking that kid at all. He's great, and
I love him. He's
awesome. He just is. Losing your brother and you weren't there, like you were out of town and all that, like that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would expect the 17s to play better. They actually play we sing tomorrow. Is that tomorrow? Saturday? Yeah. Tomorrow morning they play the kid that committed to Creighton, Davis, J.R. Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah, the shooter kid from Elite One. So that'll be good. Excited to see that. And I want to see if Bryson Ball can back up what he did last week. Like, he was phenomenal. I am telling you, he was amazing.
He can flat out shoot it. I talked to two Metro coaches the other day. One obviously was Coach Simons, but we were at the field house and we were just talking about the 16s and what guys got to do for the next level. And obviously with ball, it's kind of some ball handling and some stuff off the dribble. But Coach Simons said something I think is pretty interesting. He said he's one of the few players other than Jaden Jackson where if he gets a clean look and he misses, you're surprised.
Right. Yeah. Jaden Jack, you feel like it's just automatic. And I'm telling, like, Bryson Ball, what he did against New World in the Elite Eight, Final Eight, whatever game last week in South Carolina, he had 22 points in the second half of an AAU game against a really good team. Like a team that defended ball pressure in your face. I will very much so say that 16U ETG group has never been defended like they were in that game in their lives. And he had 22 in the second half. And it wasn't just hitting threes. It was, I'm going to get this steal and run out and dunk it one-handed. I'm going to do this little floater. Like, it was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. And Derek Rollins had a nice. I want to see if CJ Mitchell can kind of back up what he's done. He's played really well since June. I feel like he's finally healthy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like he's finally healthy. And Jaden Jackson continues to be, for my money, he's the best basketball player in the 2024 class. I've said that for, I don't know, a year. He's pretty consistent. Last week, he didn't shoot it very well, though. So we'll kind of see where that ends up. But I like it.
40% last week.
No.
Well, he was coming off a heater.
Yeah.
Where it felt like he made 60% of his threes a couple of weeks ago. He
actually didn't shoot it well. Like, it was kind of like, oh man, I don't know. But Will Cooper's got to be big for that team. Will Cooper will have a huge year for
It's a big year for him.
Yeah. He's got a chance to have a huge year for Millard South. So yeah. What's funny? What's so funny, Andrew?
Hey, let me ask you this, Mike. If you're at the NEXT Pro 16s this weekend, and you got two of the teams from Omaha representing the Final 8, and we're cheering on our boy Jacob Padilla and his 15s because they got a tough draw.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing up. They're playing up. But pretty cool to see Omaha Elite and Supreme represented, because I think Omaha Elite flies under the radar. They dealt ETG fits in the first half that I watched a couple of months ago at UBT. So I like Delron Thomas. I like a lot of their pieces. No, pretty surprised there.
Not super surprised me. Delron's played great. And frankly, that trade that Central made.
Oh, Central and North.
Yeah. Woo, buddy. Like they made a significant improvement with Delron at the point guard spot at Omaha.
There's a part of me that felt bad for Coach Lichty, though. I know he and that family, that's a good relationship there, and like that was his guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know those details, but yes, I mean, it kind of stinks, right?
Yeah.
But if you trade Delron or LC Doss for Delron Thomas, I think that's a pretty good upgrade. And this is my opinion, but Minor Strong's pretty good, right?
Yeah, he's had a good summer.
He's gonna have to be like the guy at North this year, which
he's so stinking slight to get pounded on when he does when he gets to the 10.
It's gonna be tough. But no, and then Marcus Glock is a guy that's played well for
another good summer.
Good C player, right?
Supreme.
Wahoo, yeah. But
he's
don't
had
tell,
a really
don't tell
good
people
year.
they play against that's the class that they're in. But yeah,
yeah.
I have a thing for Glock anyway, so that's just kind of how it goes.
Right. He I don't know what happened. Something flipped from the spring to this last bit of summer. I mean, we got just a little bit. We have 1 weekend left of AU basketball. Well, for me, I'm going basketball wrestling, which I don't know. I'm going to have 2 nights of just no sleep, which is phenomenal if I'm alive.
Yeah, you got tell AR your plans. You're taking the red eye
to Fargo
to Chicago, then going from Chicago to North Dakota.
Yeah, so last game in Vegas is 8:50, I believe, Saturday night. And then my flight leaves at 11:48 p.m. Vegas to Chicago, lands in Chicago at 3:30. And then I leave Chicago at 5:30 or no, wait, sorry. 3:30 land in Chicago. I leave.
You get a mulligan, no pun intended, for your.
I leave Chicago at 8:30 a.m. Land in Fargo at 10:49 a.m. on Sunday.
And then when does your day start?
At 11. So I will be in Fargo for USA Wrestling stuff. USA Wrestling is.
So this Vegas adventure was just preparing you for that.
Yeah, I need some nap.
Yeah,
go ahead and take a nap.
Yeah, you may have surpassed Okaboji, man. Congratulations.
Look at that sphere. It's amazing. Look at that. Right there. Look at the sun's up and everything.
Goodbye.
Hey, get some rest, buddy.
All right, bye.
That's the one and only Mike Sautter.
Wowzer.
Entertaining as always. When we come back,
I was
Diane
nervous the
Mendenhall
whole time.
in-house. I wasn't.
Oh, boy.
We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
We have NCAA All-Americans, we have national champions, we have players on the national team, and we have former Olympians. And a common statement from all of them is, I want to play in Omaha. I want to play in front of the most knowledgeable and passionate fans.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DV, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Happy to be joined by Diane Mendenhall now, live in studio, president of Nebraska Pro Volleyball. Excited for this one, DV at DS Mendenhall on Twitter, but also at NE Pro VB, because that is what we'll be talking about today. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning, Damon.
Long time no see. Good to see you again.
So good to see you as well.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay.
I'm blessed to be here.
So explain something for our listeners out there, because I was just getting the rundown from Jen, which she's great, by the way.
Yes,
The
rock
whole-
star.
the whole
She
team.
could be up here.
But more
Guaranteed.
enthusiasm.
But I'm like, okay, so the layout of this is Nebraska Pro Volleyball, like the overseer, and then they have just one team, or is there somebody else that oversees it all, and then the 6 teams fall beneath it? Can you explain, like, just kind of the logistics behind all of that?
Great question. So the setup is we have the Pro Volleyball Federation. So that's the league office, located central office in Columbus, Ohio. And the original 2 founders are Dave Wyndham and Stephen Evans that founded the league. And then you have franchises. And what's unique about this professional team and the approach that Dave and Stephen took is that of the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, where you have local owners. So each city is invested. They live there, they breathe it, they know the people there, and that's what leads to success.
So with Nebraska Pro Volleyball's co-founder, with Chris, you guys have to have a really good relationship. He said when it comes to finding a leader, he was looking for somebody that's passionate about volleyball, that has those leadership qualities. How about just your familiarity and your love of the state, right?
Mhm.
Like you can hear it when you talk. You're about as proud as the league as you are that it's a Nebraska thing too, because you're Nebraska through and through.
Thank you. I bleed it. And growing up in Ogallala, out in Western Nebraska, God's country.
I keep hearing that.
God's country. And, we won our first state championship, and you all weren't born then, but in Scotts Bluff. So the first state volleyball championships were in Scotts Bluff. Wow. And so it shows you how the sport has grown. Mm-hmm. And it's just the communities across the state, and my work with the university too, with the chancellor and the Husker Nation tours. I've been in these communities, I've been in the high schools and met the people, spoke at the Rotaries and things of that nature. And there are not more passionate people in this state about absolutely everything. They want to win at what they do. They come together, they unite, and they'll be all about this team.
Well, as being such an ambassador as you were for the university, you're probably not surprised by passion, but I think some people are with the reverence that there is for volleyball in this state. We go back and forth. We've joked for years. It's self-sustaining almost at the high school level. We just had a national champion at the 13U level that was from Omaha. Nebraska as a volleyball state doesn't have to take a backseat to many, especially per capita.
Definitely. It's the epicenter of the entire world. I'm not saying nation, of the entire world. You will not find any more knowledgeable fans. And we're talking from elementary school all the way up to the seniors. I actually did a 101 on volleyball at a senior center because they needed to understand overlapping and substitution and the whole rules around the libero.
Awesome.
It was a blast.
I wish I would have gotten that.
Hey, how do you say that word again?
That would have been fun.
Libero. I've heard it pronounced multiple times on television.
So in the past, what were the options then for those that wanted to go pro? Was it only Europe? And if that was the case, how does something like this eliminate the homesick aspect for a lot of players that grow up here in Nebraska?
That's a great point as far as the homesickness. Jen Spicer, who's the CEO of the league and a very well-known volleyball player herself growing up, she said that she actually called almost 500 women that had played or were playing overseas, and she literally had dozens that started crying on the phone that the opportunity to play in the United States would be here, would be for them. Because you're right, Europe is where they had to go. They had to go to Turkey, Russia, Germany, Finland, and that's where they played. And sometimes you're going into, you're not sure of your living conditions, your owner, your coach probably doesn't speak English. And so you can imagine, Damon, can you imagine if your football coach didn't speak English?
When I was allocated to the World League, it's like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
I don't know how people can function.
Right. So here they get to play in the States. They get to play in front of their family, their friends, and the fans that love them.
How cool is it that you get like Coach Buttermore at Omaha, Coach Booth, who She's arguably, no disrespect, because you may top her, one of our favorite interviews on this show always. And Coach Cook with, the reverence that the coaches are so supportive and so successful. Is there any sort of recruiting connection to a state that's already pretty good at volleyball?
I think it's definitely a culture. It's a culture that if you go all the way back to Terry Pettit and Dr. Hibner at the university that worked with your father, if you go back to the culture that was established and how we as Nebraskans treat people, how this just becomes home, you see that it just bleeds through the coaching ranks. And that's the expectation. That's the culture. And they've also understood that this is what breeds success. So that culture is also contagious, and it's contagious with the athletes, the student athletes, all the way through the team.
Obviously, DB pointed out your passion for this, and it just shines through. But how moving is it knowing that little girls in the state can dream of going to high school and playing in Nebraska, going to college and playing at the best school, one of the best schools in all of collegiate volleyball, and then playing pro in Nebraska?
Andrew, you almost give me bumps when I think about that too, because I was one of those little girls that couldn't dream of that. I'll date myself. I'm a product of Title IX. And when I was a little girl, there wasn't even high school volleyball. And I was just on that first wave of high school kids that got to play for 4 years and the opportunity to get a college scholarship. And now that there's the opportunity to play professionally in their own state is huge.
So it's community driven, as even though it's a statewide deal. Roger Dixon. There's just so many key players. You've got a great venue. You're gonna get a tremendous following. How soon can we get a name? I'm dying to know a name. You don't have to break it on our show, but man,
but I'd be okay with that too.
Thank you.
Selfish.
For the right amount of money. Everything's
Selfish.
For sale.
Everything for a price. There we go.
No,
it's just been cool to watch unfold. We get to see it step by step. The name's got to be next, right?
Thank you. It is next, and next Thursday, 10:30.
Okay.
Be ready for it. So we expect to see.
Can we change that to 9:30?
9:30.
You want to change the venue for the release too? You can do 10:30. Okay, we'll have to get out. We'll have to get out of here.
That's great.
10:30 next Thursday.
Yes.
Is it what? Any hints? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Is it an animal? Is it 20 questions?
It will be very cool.
It's got to be Nebraska based, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look,
this shoulder struggling.
Doing good. Well, she looks like she swallowed a canary over there. She's like, I don't know. Oh, is that right?
Just so you know, Damon, to make you feel better, my husband doesn't know.
Okay. All right. I don't. Your lips are sealed.
Doesn't make me feel better. I'm just kidding. So where can people get tickets then? Are they on sale?
Right now, you can join the waiting list. And next Thursday, the 20th, you will be able to go online and put down a deposit. So you can go to anyprovb.com. Right now, join the wait list. And then make sure next Thursday you put that deposit down, because that puts you in the queue. And having worked with Nebraska volleyball, this is something that you need to get in early.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess you're 1,000% correct. We love events and we love volleyball. So when you combine the two, and it's new, this is pretty cool.
And when you think of it too, it's the opposite season of the high school and the college volleyball seasons, and it'll be fun for Nebraskans.
There's only one other passionate fan base for an Olympic sport that can even in the same neighborhood compete, and that's wrestling. Volleyball is pretty much untouchable. The fan base is the fan base, and it doesn't matter. I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys.
One of my favorite sports to cover. Diane, thank you so much for taking some time this morning. Good luck, and we're excited for you guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Damon.
Appreciate it. Good to see you again.
That's Diane Mendenhall, president of Nebraska Pro Volleyball. When we come back, we'll take a short break. We'll talk to Matt Vrzal, former Husker and Pison's Pizzeria owner. I bet the interviews will be night and day different.
Matt.
Because Matt is a little aggressive.
Yes, he is.
We'll do that next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Now let's find out what Matt Vrzal is better at, telling stories or making pizza.
Matt.
Matt's an exceptional young man.
Matt Vrzal.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Vrzal.
Come on, Matt, I'm with you.
You know, like Matt Vrzal, you're one of the sexiest people in the world, but you're not one of the most beautiful. How did that happen?
Here is Matt Vrzal.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
There are 3 things I thoroughly enjoy that you do.
Me?
Yes. When you say fudge.
Fudge.
Okay? When you laugh and you start with like a little bit of the pig snort like you did there in the intro, and when you wheeze when somebody is making you laugh. 3 things thoroughly enjoy. Every time I hear that, it makes me laugh.
Yeah, well,
so thanks for putting a smile on my face.
We'll see what we can get with
and
this
I know
guy
Vrzal will put a smile on my face because he does every segment. What's up, Matty?
What up, boys? How you doing today?
We're good, man. How are you? I feel like we just hung up the phone, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, Damon. Thank you for asking, being that you, according to yourself, are the nicest person in the world.
I am.
That was very nice of you to ask me.
I felt so bad that I forgot your birthday a couple of days ago, man.
Oh, it's your birthday?
2 days ago.
Oh,
That's fine, dog.
Happy belated birthday, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we got
I'm going to call you I'm going to call the show mashed potatoes and gravy, too, by the way.
Yeah, that's cool. Just call us 2 days late.
Well, here's the thing, though. We got to talking about something so serious, like right off the bat, that it got away from me. So even when you hung up and you go, I don't know, you basically threatened me. And I go, and I didn't know what you were talking about, though.
Yeah, because you're very self-centered.
Okay.
But you're the nicest self-centered person I know.
I am. How's the T-shirt business, man? You're like, this thing could be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not off the ground yet. I still got. I'm learning. Well, I'm working with a couple great dudes that are very affordable.
Yeah.
So we're getting some stuff lined out. You know, it's fun. I like the creative process.
I was gonna say, do they get your sense of humor and your creativity? Because it's off the charts.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody does, but you. You're the only one that takes offense at it.
Okay. We were all we're all to a decent. Is that funny, Andrew? Is Matty funny?
It's very funny.
No, Matt's an idiot.
No,
Don't encourage you.
He's laughing because it's true.
Yes.
But no, it's been a fun thing. I hope to have it up. I hope to have everything ready to go early August. So I'll let the people know a little bit more about that. So thanks for putting that out there.
Early August.
Me not being ready for it.
Good on you. Hey, so we were talking about like Big Ten media, and we didn't get in. Did we even talk Nebraska football? We didn't really talk directly Nebraska football yesterday, but pretty cool to see Piper going to Big Ten media days. You've watched, you've kind of studied. He's gotten better. He took his lumps. Like good story in the making. Do you think?
Hope so. Hope the best for the kid, because in regard to like what any player, what any real human being can do is control what you can control, right? So he's there on time. When he gets there, he works hard. There's just little phases of the game where he instead of deferring to technique or even like just basic fundamentals, he'll resort to just extra effort. And that at times will get him out of balance or out of whack where he needs to be. And that's, so you can correct that. You would much rather have to tell somebody, hey, calm down, than, hey, I got to get you all fired up here. Let's go, man. Come on, you got to go. So easily fixed. Will be a fantastic story if he ends up being the guy that they end up starting at those guard spots. But going to Big Ten Media Day is probably a good start at it. And hopefully he's got some personality and he's funny and does a good job.
Can I ask you something real quick? And this is kind of off the top of your melon, so I don't know how good it'll be, but what's really the difference between him and Norelli, in your opinion? Or since you haven't seen Nori for a year, are you kind of pressing pause? Because that appears to maybe going to be a battle.
Norelli okay. So Piper relies on his athleticism, and not that Norelli is not athletic. He's become more athletic. Probably a little bit understands how to transfer power a little bit better. What Piper probably needs to do is understand how to distribute leverage. Because being the low man, as Aaron Taylor, Matt Hoskinson, John Zadiska, Rob Zadiska, all those guys prove, you can be short and be good. Right? It's just they understand how to deliver that leverage.
You can be short and be good. Shout out Matt Hoskinson.
And the rest of them, if Piper figures out the leverage game, right, he'll be fine because his feet are more than ample. Norelli, once he gets hands on, he's got a lot of power behind him, so he can do that. Hopefully, it's all natural power now, not synthetic power, but he can deliver that. So that will be an interesting one. But the benefit of it all is that it provides what Nebraska has lacked for so long, which is depth. So now you sprinkle in Lutowski, who should, be ready to go. Again, he gets a little bit out of control. He's a unique combination of both of them, where he's a very strong kid. He's a very aggressive kid, but sometimes gets out over his skis and gets pulled through blocks and misses and things a younger player's going to do. But you'd love to see the aggression, right? You want the aggression of it. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Worst case scenario, though, you got 3 guards and you got 3 tackles and 2 centers. And so now if somebody's not having a good day, now you're going to sit down and let the other guy try to have a good day.
Verz, back on media day, a question here, because I'm on the side of I want my quarterback there no matter what. And whether it's anytime you can get FaceTime, I want the quarterback there. And I think most teams should want that because you would want your team leader there. You'd hope that your quarterback is a primary team leader. You played with 3 different quarterbacks. Would you want all 3 of those guys at media day from a player's perspective?
From like when we were on the team,
like a spokesman, right? Whether it was Turman or Behringer or Frazier or Frost as a senior.
Honestly, couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting in the locker room worried about who goes to media day, you got other stuff to worry about. For us on that end, yeah, you would have loved to see T. Frazier and then watch him talk super fast. And then it was inevitable. Somebody's going to ask him a question that was going to piss him off. And it was going to be the snippiest, shortest answer ever. And it was going to be awesome.
So what's funny? You said it better than I articulated it. Because Andrew and I have been kind of talking all week about, whether the quarterback needs to be a representative or what. And, 70% of the teams only 70% of the teams their quarterback is going. And I think of it like you do. As long as there's good leadership, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me if they're there or not. That's probably what I was thinking all week when I talk like that, but I didn't articulate it. I just was like, it's not that big of a deal. But I probably would. It's probably because as a player, you care about what you see, not necessarily, what's happening on the public platform.
All right, mashed potato, I got a question back for you.
What's that? Why am I I'm the mashed potato? Apparently, you're the gravy.
No, you're the gravy.
You just called me mashed potato.
Damon, you are gravy.
Okay, I'll be gravy.
Yeah, so I'm the potato.
So,
all right, go ahead, Aaron or Andrew.
You need your starting quarterback to be a captain.
Mm-hmm.
You do?
Oh, do you need?
Yeah, he's asking you.
You're on a team. I'm asking you a question.
I would say yes.
Okay. So one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Nebraska football was not a captain.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. A lot of great team leaders then too.
No, he was a fantastic leader.
Right. Nowadays, I would not even just nowadays. I would say I would want my quarterback to be a captain. I want him to be one of the best team leaders out there.
What I'm telling you though is you don't have to be at the press conference to be a leader. You don't have to be the captain to be a leader.
Sure.
The real ones, the OGs, the people that want to go out and win know who it is. And
within the team?
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
Like the rest of it is fluff. Like we get addressed. Like look at the coaches' names on the staff. Like look at the hierarchy of any institution ever. Associate athletic director in charge of towels. Associate athletic director in charge of pencils. It's like, come on, bro. Like you're not. That's just not what it is. So you don't need all this fluff and crap. Like sometimes people are just leaders. And if the people on there and it gets into a popularity contest, they're like, that guy is kind of an ass, but he's really good. Let's just not elect him captain. Okay, that's still our leader. That's still our dude. And for your SID department, they probably like, okay, who can talk the best? And who's kind of funny? And who's not going to go get us in trouble and say a bunch of dumb ass, right? That's what that is.
A bunch of dumb ass. It's funny. If I'm talking to you, this just happened yesterday. He drops a couple of expletives, and I was like, oh, something poop. And he's like, no, That's not what I said. I said, and then he drops it. But it's funny because to hear you say dumbass makes me not feel so bad about myself when you're chastising me.
Well, if you're just on the internet, I just let him rip. But kind of not sold out here. You're trying to do this radio thing again.
Verz, but we appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for your time. We'll talk again next week.
You do. Give your mom a hug for me.
Oh, I will, man. Tough day for her. We're hanging in, babe. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too.
That's Matt Vrzal.
Yeah.
Great way.
I will.
To close the
I will.
weekend.
I will. She's probably listening, but I'll say, hey, Verzy's giving you a hug.
Next week, Ravi will be in the seat for DB. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, DB.
Yes, sir.
So enjoy your time with the West Side football team, whatever other football duties you have to take care of. That's it for Coffee and Cream. We'll see you then.